Yakaya Yoxatini, Takat Johan, Hasartu Yake Wuchin Hasati. Adatoe Yutak, Watankia Yaki, Dleit. Washiata Achtuasagui Satinitsu. That's a Akakakwashi. Guksa Yadu. Yisaku Adu Sakshawayata. Yadleit Ka. Dleit Yak Aya Yeti. Dleit Yak Yeti away with Dleit Ka. Kawe Satiniata. Dleit away Kutlan. Ya Ak Kwan Anikuk. One Kanins talk, ya yidet. Keshkutlan away with Dleit. Ya yidet Katlan. Ayat Dleit. Atlain Dleit. Ye away click the heen Hosatin ya as. Atlain Dleit. Away Akaye Yeti. Ye Yachwakat. Atlain Dleit. As Kuk. Yikshe. Click yen wat. Click. As shower hick. Dleit teen. How? Yake. As shower hick. Dleit teen. Dleit qadlan. Qadlani dleit. Atlain dleit kutzati. Qadlan heen. Qadlan dleit. Ye awe. Kesh. Atlain dleit. Ha'anikuk. Like. Ha'anikuk. Dleit qadlan. Yake. Kulchish. What was I saying?
We washed down corn, Dleit Kawu.
Yes. Maybe you know this guy. He's a white, Dleit Ka, Dleit Yuck. White man, he's got snow on his face. I thought it was fun because there's a group of us who weren't huge fans of the statue going up. And I was walking by it the other day. I was like, hey, make a funny picture. What else was I saying?
Did you say something about deep snow?
Mm-hmm. So Dleit Ka Dlan. So that is deep snow. So and so then I said, Take the hin ye yachwaka, ya as atling dleit we as kuk. And what kakwas a yachakwe, hukot take we as shower hick dleit team.
So it's a full of it.
Yes. Right, so I was trying to figure out how to say there's a lot of snow on the tree. Right, so my English brain tried to put it together and said, we as kuk atling dleit. Or I think I said atling dleit we as kuk yeti, right? And so I just tried to say, okay, lots of snow, that tree on there is. And I asked an elder, I asked an elder, is that correct? They told me no. They said, we as shawahik Dleit teen. And so this one is incorrect. We don't talk about it like that. And then this one is that, whoops, this tree is full of snow. So this is full, shawahik, and it's full of solids. So that tells you that snow is seen as a solid. In Tlingit, shawakit would be it's full of liquid. And then you can have, just like we were talking about just the other day, so you can have shawahik and you can have shawshahik. So if this one is, it is full of solids, oh wait, hold on, whoops, a shawshahik.
Filled it?
Yes, they filled it with solids, something that's solid. So you could do the same thing here. You could say shawakit.
It's that part, huh? That's the
Yes.
part where they're doing it at the moment.
So we just did this where we said You could change the classifier from 0 to either S or L to say someone's doing that thing. You'll see this a bunch. You say, Yat'a, it's warm. Aushit'a, they warmed it up, right? Yak'e, it's good. Aushik'e, they made it better. And then you could say Eshau. Okay, and same thing. So then I said, Dleit ha'ani kuch. There's lots of snow on our land. Like that's how I thought it would go. And again, I was told like, so I said, Dleit ha'ani kuch. And they said, nope. How about Qatlan? What do you say? I guess you'd say, Dleit Qatlan ha'ani ka. Lots of questions?
Yeah. Say, you know how you're talking about they filled it in future tense, kind of like Kayaaní to clock. They're gonna win it, right? We're gonna win.
Well, you're going to say Yagach to La. Okay. So anytime, okay, let's take a look at the verb dictionary for a second. We're going to jump into the verb database actually. So, well, let's do this. Okay, here's Yagach to La. Here's let's do Agursaku. We'll keep them all third person. Then we'll do okay, Aguch. All right, let's go. Kegurtahan.
Yeah.
And Ye Yekponuk. Okay. What do all of these have in common? Oops, we got a gach too, don't we?
It's all kind of something that's going to happen, right?
I guess we should say, hold on, gach.
Yeah.
Tusaku. Okay, let me change this. Yay, gach tusatin. And let me check something. I should have. Okay. Does everybody still see? Let me make sure I'm sharing the right thing. Okay. So we'll go K. Gach tusachen. Okay. So what do these things have in common?
Future forms.
Future. There's at least one other thing.
They're first person plural.
Yes. So they're we. Or subjects. Now what's different?
I wish I had the words for it, but is it because the fact that when they are contracted, the ones K and Ye being a part of what's that group?
Yes.
That's
The
what
bottom ones have K and Ye, and these top ones do not.
Yeah.
There is a reason for that. And there's no guesswork involved whatsoever. When there's a K in front of it, when there's a Ye in front of it. What kinds of things are K and Ye?
That's the one word I'm trying to remember here.
The K and the Y sound.
Up and down.
Yinde, kinde, the Yi, the Ki. So what do you, now there's a Huge hint there. What do you think this has to do with?
Up and down. Okay.
Yes. And what kinds of things?
Positive and negative? No?
No, what kinds of things in verbs?
Motion verbs?
Not quite. None of these are motion verbs.
No.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Is it direction?
Not quite.
You're gonna see something and you're gonna love something.
Good?
Okay, and yeah, I thought it was because of the different type of verb roots and whatever's before them changes between K and yay.
Well, okay, so we got, let's start by translating these. We're going to do all kinds of stuff now. Yigachtidlach.
Yeah.
We will succeed.
Idana
We
yakah.
will obtain it. Or we will defeat them. Gachtisaku.
We will know it.
We will know it.
Wasaku.
Higachtisachan.
We will love it.
We will love it or them. Yigachtisatin.
We will see it.
We will see it or them. Okay. So now we're going to look up this Yagachtidlach. We're going to look up this Gachtisaku. We're going to look up this Kekachtisachan. And we're going to look up this Yegachtisatin. Okay. So going into our verbs, we got to start with dlach. So we're going to go look for dlach. I got to close my verbs. Shame. Okay. So here's dlach. Oops, down. Up.
There you go.
So this says object, ya, which is the vertical or the face of something. Subject, zero group classifier. Verb root is dlach. Hey, look at that. It's a na event verb.
Yes.
Huh, that's interesting. It's interesting. Now we got to look up, what was our next one?
I think it was a Kazakhstan, was it?
Huh? That was our third one.
Yeah, second one.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Ah, we are going to know it. Okay, so if we go to ku, and we say, okay,
I'm going to amuse myself.
you'd say, shkak kwash shu. I'll make myself laugh. Okay, so here's object, subject, S classifier, ku, zero event verb. Oh, that's interesting. It's a zero. Now we got to go find khan. Ah, close your verbs. Jeez. Okay. Go to bed. Here's khan. Object, subject, S classifier. Khan, with this little X means it never changes. It's always short and high. Hey, that's a ga. Isn't that kind of an upward thing? I think that's an upward thing.
That's where is that where the K?
That's exactly where the K comes
Yeah,
from.
that's what it is.
Non-negotiable, it's no guesswork. Every g conjugation verb must have K in the future. It's a low tone K. It will always be there. K kwa K. K hagachtzin. It will always be there. K gachtzan. It's gonna stink. Okay, so that means teen should probably be g conjugation. If my guesswork is correct, okay, so here's teen. Go down. Object, subject, S classifier, q event. That is the deciding factor. Every single future verb will follow this rule. It will always follow this rule. And the rule is zero and na don't have to have anything before the verb. Ga must have K, qa must have ye. They're both low tone. That yekwati, that's a high tone one, it's different. Okay? Every single time. It's got to be that. There's no guessing. But people, because you'll just get corrected. You're like, I don't know. Some of them have it, some of them don't. I don't know. No, it's all about the conjugation type of the verb. Every verb has one. You can't forget what it is. Just as you sort of learn this stuff and you start to map it in your brain, then when you look up a verb, you're like, okay, that's ga conjugation. I got to remember that. That way, when I use it in the future, the K pops up.
Oh, it just opened up, man. So anytime you see up there, it's always going to be within that variation on those charts.
Yes, that will always, and then you could come up with things like this. You could say, Klesh K Wash Goo. Oops. It will be boring. Or you could say, there's a positive version. K Guch Sa Goo. It will be fun. Okay. Okay.
Cool.
Sheesh. Okay. Now we'll do a little translation work. Said this was coming. Now you get the fun stuff. Oh, yeah. What's up?
Oh, say, just those couple sentences of about the snow. If I could go back to that for a moment.
Okay, wait. I think people write down boring and fun. Hold on. Kekakhushku. Kekakusaku. And this is like, so like kasagu means fun. So I remember I would catch myself going, kasagu yekwati. I was like, why didn't I just change the verb? Like that kasagu is a verb. Okay. So what am I going back to?
The snow sentence.
The sentences about the tree is full of snow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Anyway, I just thought that those two sentences went so nicely together, and I just thought I'd say that it seems to go perfectly inside of a melody that we use at the Hatuyeyati violin, the Gista program, where the kids are just using their sucks, putting them over their head, their bows. And so far, it's only been melody. And but it has been a melody. And it just plays as the kids are exercising their arms, strengthening their arms and their gracefulness. And it seems though that these two sentences can fit in there. And I was wondering what you thought of it as a picture. Way Stawahe Aslating Dleit God long on. And it's as short as that. The kids do it twice, and then they move on because it's really just an arm movement. And they've always ever called it snowflakes.
Oh, wow.
And the kids have done it in their concerts, and there's only been the recording, and it seems possible to be able to include something along those lines seems to be inspired.
Okay. That sounds great.
So stay tuned. Goodness cheese.
Cheese. Oh, here's another nice one. I'ikachahin Shtuk itehin. What are those two saying? Anybody know?
I believe in you.
I believe in you. Is there a song?
There is a song, People Raven Dancers sings it, and you hopefully don't know if that's.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to sing it as an exit song, and somebody might have to leave it.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry. You believe.
Well, I'm asking you.
You believe in yourself.
That's a command form. Believe in yourself. So this is my message to all of you language learners.
Click.
Ik achahin, shtuk itahin. Because this is like every single day, we're going to just keep looking at stuff we don't know. But then you will reach a saturation point where there's so much stuff that you know.
You got a hand up again.
Click.
Oh, is there another one? Another question? George? Thought?
Sorry, no, that was the same one. I just lowered it.
Yukecha. All right, here we go. So the way I'm going to do this is I will show you a phrase that might be in English, might be in Tlingit. If you see the phrase in English, translate it to Tlingit. If you see the phrase in Tlingit, translate it to English. So what I'll do is I will show it to you, pause the recording. We'll take, what do we need, 3 minutes? 3 minutes per. Then we'll see what you come up with. But you ready to dive into the resources, your mind, your books, and your devices? Okay. I think question kata kutsati. We'll see how many we do. There's 10. Okay. And what I'd like you to do is write it down yourself. If you have access to the chat, what we'll do is when we come back from recording, I'll go type dech nas, and everybody type it into the chat, but don't hit enter. And then when I start the recording again, I'll say type dech nask gook. And then you'll hit enter and we'll see what everybody comes up with. And then I'll show you what I come up with. And there might be multiple right answers for this. Shukwa ayata. A dog is sleeping under the table. Ask when it's AIG.
We're okay, talk.
Kwasti toa geseku a kachawe kadishiti tuk o a kade kaishahiti achtuasaku. Ya yidet kone aya we return kuchte achtuasaku kailchechi. Kaik dech nask guk. Okay. Do you want to share what you came up with?
The doc taif yanata wake.
Okay. Anybody else?
You know, I was thinking.
Go right to the thing.
Can't get.
Wekate hot ta na doc talk.
Okay. Yes? Oh, there's some in the chat. Let's see. Dog Taik Kate Touch. Yanajak.
Atai
Nadak Taik Kate Wuta. We Kate Ta.
Wake
Nadak Owe. Nadak Taita. We Kate.
Dark
Anybody
Tai
else? Got a different one?
Tai Tai
Somebody's
Tai
reading? We Kate Ta. Nadak Tai. Okay.
Tai
Here's anybody else? Last chance.
Tai
Here's how I would
It
say
Dark Tai
H Nadak Taik Ta.
Get the Dark Tai Ta thầy ta
So the way I was saying it, was it like, I'm saying it's like under, like right below it, right?
Well, I think a lot of people, getting to the verb, this is one of the shortest verbs in Tlingit, is they are sleeping right now.
Right.
And it's so short that I think a lot of people think it doesn't sound like a verb. So they want to put wuta,
Kata.
nata, chata. They want something. There is no prefix in this verb, which is very unusual.
Mm.
You do have, there's two things that are actually there. You just, what are the two things? They're both zeros. How's that?
classifier and the pronoun.
Classifier and the pronoun. Third person pronoun, zero classifier. So you do have three things there. But you just say ta, right? Kate, and these, there are some pieces that can move, but nadak, tayi has to go in that order. Because if you say Kate, tayi, nadak, ta, it doesn't make very much sense. It sounds like the table is sleeping under the dog. Because like, why is the table under the dog? And that must be the thing that's sleeping because, you know, so the word order is kind of important in a lot of ways. It's critical. Like whenever you have one of these directional things, it must come directly after the noun that it's talking about. So if you say kek tayi, now something's under that dog. You say nadak tayi, something's under that table.
So below and under. Was I saying below, right?
Tayi, yeah.
Or no, I said
That's
top.
underneath.
Okay.
Below is yi.
So nadak talk.
So talk would be like in a vessel, in a container, in a cavity.
I was kind of thinking like dakshana talk.
Yeah. So like shanach talk is the big space between those two mountains.
Yes. Okay.
So yeah, things can be talk. You could talk into the river, into the water, into a valley, between the two cliffs. Okay. The itcha. The shingitrina choa. Wait, let kayu katangi. Ach, wutus ha. Yisitinge akatichayi. Bashituage seguwe chat ayakak kaishikiti ayidet hilwasaka kwati. Aka we return kwash enter hechosaku wasakachtisa. Kakachil cheich. Kaik dech nask kuk. Ooh. What do we got here?
Did you see my keys?
Did you? Have you seen my keys? Did you see my keys? Right?
That pinched X is what is this plural? Is that what that? It's just
It's katecha.
Yeah. Okay.
It means the twister.
Because I wondered if it was just one key.
That could be.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to. I think you would pluralize this if you were talking about like 100 keys.
Okay.
Tichachi. And so what if I wanted to say, have you all seen my keys? What needs to change?
Would you change yisatine to yesatine?
What if I wanted to say, have my keys been seen?
Austinke.
That would be, have they seen my keys? Have my keys been seen? So we do have here you, se. So what has to change? We changed I to Y. Because you could also say "Chwasatin ge achatichai." Why would you ask that? Have I seen my keys? Have my keys been seen?
Well, does it become like Dleit?
Yeah, so this becomes de, which pushes the classifier to become z. Ududzitin ge achatichai. Have the people seen my keys? But ududzitin, right? This is people have seen it. It has been seen. Right? There could be some situation you're trying to sneak into the museum, get all of our things back, and you're trying to say we've been seen. How did Zatin? Ach gishich, run away. We've been seen. But first, get the shakiyat. Gotta bring it home. It's the narrative.
In the mind of Hune.
Okay, I'll put these. I'll delete them and I'll put them in the chat.
Hune,
Ah,
would wududzatin be a passive verb? Does Tlingit have that? Is that what you would call it, or would you not?
not really. So when we talk about passive in English, we usually say word. English likes to have a word order of subject, verb, object. When you use the passive voice, you go object, subject, verb. It was him that I saw. That's a passive construction. Tlingit, you can't do passive constructions because you can't move them, but you kind of can, I guess. So hold on, let me get the wududzatin out of there. And then let's shift to the notes so we can just sort of talk this one through. These are all good questions as you start to sort of fit Tlingit into your mind. Your English brain's going to have all these questions, right? So you do have object, subject, verb. Like this is the way it has to go. I was in a linguistics class in Hawaii, and they said most of the languages in the world go subject, verb, object. Very few of the languages go subject, object, verb, and 0% of the languages go object, subject, verb. I was like, well, 0? Can't you give us like a 0.1 or something? There are not very many languages in the world that use this particular order. Tlingit does. Within the verb itself, it's non-negotiable. You cannot move them. But you can move them around outside here. So you could say ach kla, ach ish, asechan. So if you were to read that, how would you translate that?
My mom loves my dad.
Yes, that would be my mom loves my dad. So what we have found is when you move words outside, Tlingit does like to go subject, object, and then within the verb it goes object, subject, verb. Of course. So Tlingit is like, okay, when you move them out, you flip them around, but when you move them in, you flip them around, right? So it's always got to have something complicated. So if you move them, then some other things are going to want to change. For example,
Great Jedi you seek.
oh,
Is that what we're talking about too? Like Yoda was kind of doing that object subject?
well, a little, yeah, I haven't really analyzed it. I think it's different somehow because he says something you are, right? Instead of
Right.
you are. So he does. He goes verb, object, I don't know. Whatever he does, okay. But so if you were to say ach, kla, asechan, ach, ish, I think people would still get it. But you can also, if it starts to get unclear, right? Like Tlingit wouldn't really want you to use the ish first, unless there was some questions about who does mom love? Then you might say ach ish, aweh, ach Ach, sechan. So that's one way you could take care of it, is you need to put this, the CH marker on there. But that's going to push the zero, the A marker to go back to zero, which is really interesting. But this is something I don't think you have to worry about yet. But Tlingit does not really have a passive voice like English does, because what English is saying you can get fancy with it and start moving that object to places we don't expect it to be. It was the mouse who was eaten by the cat. Like, it's very fancy, right? As opposed to the cat ate the mouse.
Well, the reason I was curious is because some other languages have a verb form that operates as a passive, whereas English relies on word order. So, to make a passive. But when the passive is built into the verb, which it looked like in Ududzatin, that makes it the job a lot easier, I think, to figure out what the subject is.
Yeah, because there are some which I think people call anti-passives. And an anti-passive means it's a method of kicking out the object. So you can say awaka and wudaka, which are probably more common in the imperfective, which would be akis and dakis. Anybody know what any of these are?
I once heard Jan de Jong and Cluck once say, wu wa de ka.
Wudaka?
Mhm.
I don't know why.
It was a good.
I know that Bessie Cooley will sometimes she'll say wukaka, which would be I'm going to whatever this verb is. I can't quite remember yet. Okay, awaka and wudaka are akis and dakis. Anybody know any of them?
Sewing.
Yes. So these are all sewing verbs. Oops. Any ideas on them getting the translations down?
So would wudika be it is being sewed?
Well, not okay. So if it is being sewed, that would be decades.
Oh, the case.
Is that how you spell sewed? What a strange language we're studying here. This sued. It's being sued. Okay. So we've added one. And we can add it down here. We can add it here too.
Kiss, sewing.
They are sewing. There's got to be a subject there. So what would a case be? They are sewing. I need one more word. It.
It.
So then would the ka and awaka.
Is that plural?
They're sewing on it.
That would be a kawaka. A kawaka would be they sewed it on it, or beaded it on it, or embroidered on it. Kadakis, that's beating. We'll put it down there now because we got a beater among us.
Pronunciation.
They are beating and akakis. So the it, right? So there's an object there. They're beating moccasin tops. They're beating a vest. They're beating whatever this thing they're going to give to me. Yes, beating or embroidering or sewing something onto something. Sewing the pattern onto the blanket. That would work as well. Awaka.
Is that sewing on skin?
Nope. It's all about the wo.
People sewed it?
Is it the past? Like,
They
sewed?
sewed.
They sewed it?
They
Or they sewed or sewed it?
sewed it. It is being sewn? I don't even know. I'm probably going to get the English wrong. Some English teacher is going to watch this class and be like, get him to stop using our language. I'm like, that's what we're trying to do here. Okay. So this, you'll see this, we're going to look at a bunch of examples where this happens, but we'll take a break. We did some sentences. We'll do some more next time. And we're going to switch to back to our beginning Tlingit verb review, where we're going to start moving through a bunch of verbs where we change the object and change the subject, just so we can start seeing what happens when we do that. And then that's going to get us ready to start moving towards learning how to put a perfective together. Like by the end of the semester, you'll know how to do a perfective, and you'll know how to do a future for any single verb. You look it up, you say, I could put that in the perfective. I could put that in the future. And that's a huge step. It's a really big step to start unlocking stuff, because then you'll start just gobbling up all kinds of verbs. Because then you'll look at this, awaka, like that's a zero conjugation verb. I could tell. And you'll know how to do that, right? So that way when you look in the verb dictionary, which I should have open, here it is. So when you look up here and you see K aguch shach huin. When you look at that, you say that is g conjugation. I know that because it's in the future and it has k in front of it, or k in front of it. Let's see what else. If we go looking up cut, well, here's one. So it has, wait, what's ach shachash? Cut that bush from there. And we see that's a command with nothing in front of it. So that's got to be a zero conjugation.
On yachta hash. Is that in similar, that kind of hash?
That one is, it's not hash, it's hash.
On
Yeah.
yachta hash.
Find it. Oh, come on, it's under. Okay, hold on. I did fail. So anya shahash is, what are we going for? Oops. That one. Ayez ke ulhash kuchte yanalhash. So if it says hush, that is a zero conjugation. And I could tell that closed perfective, short and high, that's zero. Everything else is long and low. So you can't always tell what the conjugation is, but sometimes you could say, well, it's either zero or not. I could tell that.
It's never going to change that from that hash.
It's a motion verb, so
Okay.
here's the answer. Motion verbs are the funnest verbs because they can take any four of the conjugation types. You want a zero? Got you. Neil-gu. That's zero. You want a na? Sure. Wei-de nagu. You want a ga? Okay. A kach ayake-gu. Oops, that's a zero. I guess I could say yaka-gu. There it is. Start walking. And then if you want a qa, yes. Wei-de qa-gu. Walk down there. Okay. Huh?
I just said yuck.
Oh, you can. Okay. Oh, wait. Let me show you one more thing before we go to break, because I think it's funny. Before we go to break, we've got to go back to our, where's this dumb thing? Okay, how am I going to find it? Wasaya Kwatlach. Here it is. So we got to go back to our AI and see what it came up with. How do you say good day in Tlingit? B'nai Kwan.
Wow. Wow.
That's my people.
Are you working on this AI?
No, I have nothing to do with this, I
Who's AI?
swear. I would be like the greatest egomaniac in the history of the world.
Oh my God, I'm going to start saying Kune Kwan.
That's just
We
how
hear
it is.
Palestine,
On
Kune
Yach
Kwan.
away, which would be, it's like a village. Let's see. Come back in 6 minutes.
Whole lot of hooligans and cops.
Okay. Atcha awe hasu jiwu. Wedniya iti cook. When qanin suhan suk alhatu ati. Ushkana khutu daati. Atcha daat. Ha atchai ha kusti sati. Yewe tek dehin khoach. We cook aya. Yewe yudu asako at. Bas sidzi aya slinkiti khatangish tu iltu. Ya hashagun hastu atchaiha. Aqawe chu oya. Wedna dark ya khaya. Has ye qaqin. Ya halilk o has. Has de tawasagu wuchin. Utukhai. Ya ohan qahas. Yewe tlako ya datu tukhwatang. Ya hashagun hastu atchai. Har yanwat qanakhoy hastu tuati. Gwallisaku hin Taanáx Kayaaní Dísi aya yudu asak ya dis. One aya chu aya yis tak. One ya kwahi haji yis. Ade aya shqadat. Yudu asako at shqadat. Yukla at. Gwalha at khai da yeji wune. Shukwa a qaq. Itch a. Sak. Nak. Acht. Atlein a. Gaat. Yewe atlein owe. Adagi jigachtuni. Atkan hiti atkan ani. Atchawe tu yake. Shanya ka gaat yu. Gaat shanya ayakunachoy yake. Gulchish yuhan. Ya yidata yaha yukatangi dati jigachtuni. Ya. Ade wujin. Katijil. Yeah. Yaha yukatangi. So the goal now, well, let me rearrange this a little bit, is to start putting the pieces together a lot more, right? So as we go through and we did this, chet, ha, I, yi, 0 or a, has, 0 or a, ka or k, at, whoosh, chush. So these are our object pronouns. And so what we're going to do now is start looking at some verbs with object pronouns and start cycling through these so we can practice seeing what happens when we start changing them. Start changing the objects, start changing the subjects, start changing both of them. Then we start adding some components in there. Well, what happens if we do perfectives and futures and start doing the same thing, right? We start learning the mechanics of it because that's the artificial part of language learning. But then when we get into the naturalized part where we're just trying to talk, we'll be able to move those parts in our mind. And so it's like a muscle memory type of training is to try and do this kind of stuff. So we're going to take a look at a verb. So here it is. And we're going to learn how to continue to read what the theme tells us, right? Everything is there for us to use this verb. If we go through, this blue letter tells us something. What's it tell us? There is an object, right? So there is an object pronoun there. Going back to that list, chet, ha, I, yi. In this case, it will always be 0. Third person will always be 0 here because there's no subject every single time. Then we're going to have has and 0. We should have ka because there is a weather verb for kuwake, right? And then we're not going to do, in this case, at and chush and wooch. We're not going to use that because some of those require subjects, okay? What about the next thing over? What does that tell us? Now, conjugation. Zero classifier. So purple's a classifier. So that means this classifier, you're going to have two options. What are they? This classifier can have two different forms. Zero and yeah. When would it become yeah?
There's an I.
Yeah, well, that's the plus I form. And when would it go to that plus I form?
In the future?
No, never in the future. It's a good guess.
In the perfective,
It would be in the positive perfective, and it would be in the positive imperfective. But the short answer is when it is that way. Is it that way? Yep, plus I. That's it. That's all. Plus, and for now, don't worry about potentials. Just remember, plus I means yeah, it is. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, it is. Okay? Then we get the root marker, A. This, and just remember this. If it's marked high, it won't go low. If the theme shows it high, it won't go low. This is G conjugation. In the future, it must have K in front of it. K kwa K. You cannot drop it. When we get to progressive imperfectives like yanagut, ya anasquain, K nakain, same thing. K nakain. It's getting better. It's a state verb that tells us it can have an imperfective, and the imperfective will be plus I. And then this is kind of repetitive information. It just means object intransitive means there is only an object. For O to be good, I always think of this as good. I know in the dictionary it also says fine and pretty. I don't really see it as functioning that way. That's okay. So, we'll all try and take turns. So if you have predicted one, maybe take a pause and see if everybody else gets a chance. How would I say I'm good?
Okay.
Yeah, oh, everybody say khat yak eh. Khat yak eh. Khat yak eh. And when we go back to the Tlingit workbook, this shows you khat. There's this little equal sign now, which means this is attached to the next thing. That's all that little equal sign shows you. It says it's attached to something. We write khat as its own separate word, but it is part of the verb, can't be separated. Ya and K, classifier, zero group, plus I, good.
That nya right there, because that also mean it could be like woo.
It can change to a W.
Yes.
Okay. Ask questions if you got them. But how would I say you're good? Iyake. Yeah, wait, everybody say iyake. 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 If you write this I separate from that verb, then I'm not going to say iyake. I say tesh ishke. Okay, tesh ishke. What does tesh ishke mean? You are bad, right? So there was someone who was taking a lot of distance courses. Then we had a meeting, and I saw this person in person. I say, "Yekech satini wasaiyeti." Hukoa tesh ishke. Tesh ishke. Dasayech sene koa wanaxeye yisaka. oh, I'm having a real bad day and I don't feel good. I was like, okay. It was a conjugation issue. So I saw someone, I said, good to see you. How are you doing? And they said, you're bad. And I said, me? And they said, yes, you're bad. And I was like, what did I do? And they said, I'm having a bad day. I don't feel good. And I was like, oh, kechat ushke. Okay, that's what they meant to say. They said kesh ishke. And I was like, I was getting nervous because maybe I was. Okay. But just remember, the I is always attached to the verb. It is always. That second person object needs to be attached. They are good or it is good. Oh, there's a question. Masa?
On that issue of the pronoun being attached to the verb, I was just curious why the first person pronoun isn't.
Okay. That is a good question. So let's go. We got to look at some bad stuff now. Okay. So let's get back into our notes and let's look at this. So third person, klesh ushka. They are bad. It is bad. This doesn't mean not good. You could say klesh uke. You could say that. Klesh ushke is a different verb. It's not the negative version of yake. It's the opposite of yake. Okay, so they plural. Klesh, pas ushke. Okay, so this verb, the ushke part has not changed, right? So they all are bad. Okay, so now we could say klesh chat ushke. Has not changed, right? I am bad. Klesh ha ushke. We are bad. Has not changed. I'm gonna skip down one. Oops, let me just put these all on the same page. Okay. Klesh yi ushke. You all are bad. But this one, klesh ishke, that verb has changed. It's the only one on this list that is causing change. It's contracting into the prefix. That is the reason why we write it as part of the prefix. Because it will morph, it will change. And that's just something it's one of these things, and not everybody follows this rule. And that's why this is one of the rules I think that you should really grab onto so you don't put that second person out floating in the water. They need to be attached to that verb. It's a good question.
Wait, for clarity, so the second person plural is always, object is always separate.
Yes, because you see right here, it does not contract. Because it doesn't contract, we write it separately. That's the only reason why it's separate or attached. But there is a logic to that. And that was decided decades and decades ago. Kashiushkega? Okay. Y'all bad? Okay, let's go. They or it is good.
Okay.
That would be they all. And we're going to get to it.
Okay.
Yake, right? Everybody say yake. Yake. Yake.
Okay.
So your English brain is going to want a pronoun there. It often is. And so you'll catch people or sometimes yourself putting de or ka or like your English brain's like, there's got to be something there. You can't just say good, right? Because in English, you want they are good, he is good, she is good. English is like, you need at least 2 words there. Chicken's like, okay, it is good, they are good. A singular they. So that is an unmarked pronoun. If you only have an object, the third person is always unmarked. In mind. We're good. We.
Tuke?
No, that would be, we're doing it. You could say wutushike. Hayake. That's what we're looking for. We're gonna say hayake. Hayake. Hayake.
Kayaaní.
So there is that relational like ha'ani, hashish kohas. That's a different ha. But this in the object, when it happens to us, yehadu asak shukach adi. We are called shukach adi. Okay. You all are good.
That's the other one.
Who hasn't gone yet?
Yake.
Yeah, yiyake. Yiyake. Oh, tesh yushke. All right, I won't go that bad. Tesh yuke. Tesh yuke. Y'all are not good. How's that? Okay, yiyake.
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 Yake.
Yiyake.
So one of the things that we end up doing when we teach Tlingit is we put a lot of emphasis on this thing that we're changing, right? Yiyake, iyake, hasyake. When you naturalize Tlingit, you just bring that back down, right? One of the classic examples of this is I used to do this all the time. I go, you hut do a sock, you it do a sock, you hus do it, right? And it should be you hut do a sock, right? Where does that tone go? Sometimes we're using tone because we're putting emphasis on something. Ha yak e, yi yak e.
My name is Lance.
They all are good.
Is it hus too? Is it hus too?
There's a hus, and then there's a
Hus yake.
just hus. Hus yak e. Hus yak e. Hus yak e.
Hus yake.
Hus yak e. So hus lives on the outside of a bunch of different stuff, right? It's on the outside of all of these pronouns because it's not a pronoun. It's a pluralizer. It says I could pluralize those pronouns, just those third persons, right? So that's another thing with Tlingit. It was like first person plural, second person plural. When we go third person, the plural is a marker that sits outside. And just remember that, because you'll say things like has ha-sechan, has chat-sechan. So it's going to go has chat, has ha, has yi. And in this case, again, has yake. Sometimes your English brain is like, shouldn't I put a pronoun in there? It's a zero pronoun. So because you have weather, you could technically say kuwake. But we're going to use the other version here, because I think every speaker that you said that to, they would think of good weather. So we're going to use the other version, the longer version of the fourth person. Kayake. 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 Kayake.
Kayake.
Now what is this one? It tells us everything we need to use this verb. Right? Starting from the left, there's an object. Cannot forget that it's there. There's an L classifier, and since it's a state verb, What do we now expect the classifier to be?
Plus I.
Which would be?
Se.
It will be se. State verb imperfective is plus I. Why? Because if you're saying it's that way, it's got to be that way. And if it's that way, that's a plus I classifier. Chun, and what does this little X tell us?
It doesn't change.
It's short and high every time. Keshish chun. Kegush chun. Kechat gush chun. I'm going to be stinky, right? Okay. And this chun, just so that we're clear, does not always mean it smells bad.
Yeah.
Right? It means it's a strong odor. Like, I don't know, if you love somebody, you might like the way their armpit smells. There's nothing wrong with that. Ah, yeah. That could be really you're programming into your brain. Tao Chun. That's a Tlingit name.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Stinky feather?
Yes, but it's like the scent of that raven is on.
Yes, I should say it. I shouldn't
Right?
have said stinky.
So it
I should
doesn't-
say good fragrance.
But if you call someone Tuk Chun, that's not a nice thing to say, usually. So it does have a bit of a negative, but sometimes you can say Kegush Chun. That's going to be a very fragrant, it's going to be a very strong odor. So it's not always a negative thing.
But also don't confuse it with the term for mother-in-law.
Oh, like Chan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of my favorite people are Tao Chun.
Tao Chun was Ha Jakti's name. Sobloff. He had a bunch of names. Okay. I stink.
Oh,
Not ha. Chat. Okay, we're still in these objects. Chatlichan. Chatlichan.
Chun.
Chatlichan. You stink.
Ishlichan.
Yeah, away. Ishlichan. Ishlichan.
Ishlichan.
Ishlichan. Ishlichan.
Ishlichan.
That pronoun must always be part of the verb. Don't forget it. It's on there too. You won't forget it. Okay. It stinks. They stink. Chun. No, Chun, you're putting an object and a subject on there. So it just goes straight to the verb. Chun. Chun. Chun.
Got a question. So can that Chun also have that case, so it'd be Shichang? Like you sort of stink? Or is that only for like nouns?
Oh, like the little,
Yeah.
like you could say,
Shichang.
chunk. I don't know. That's a good question. So there's a raven story where he lands on Kaja and he wants to rest, and then he hears this breathing behind him, and he turns around and there's a sea otter. It's one of my favorite parts. And so, because the speaker, her name was Kaski Susie James. She was Chukansha. And she said, she's telling the story, and she goes, sea arch. And that's how she said it in English, for sea arch. And then she turns to her daughter. She goes, "What's that do with Her daughter goes, sea otter. She goes, sea art. And then she keeps telling the story. And then when Raven sees this sea otter, this yacht, he goes, Hakuk, Hakuk, Hakuk. So he was saying Hakuk. So I turned to George and Marge. I said, how are we going to translate that? And Marge goes, come here, sweetie.
Nice.
Yeah, so Chunk, maybe.
Chunk. Name somebody that one.
Instead of all right. Chunk. Okay. We stink. Hashichan. Hashichan.
Hashichan.
Hashichan.
Hashichan.
Hashichan.
Hashichan.
Y'all stink. That would be them all. Yishichan.
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 Yishichan. Ah.
Yishichan.
Yishichan.
Giving out names. They all stink. Get away. Haslichan.
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 People stink. This one you are going to have k, because there's not stinky weather. Kushichan.
Kutlichan.
Kushichan.
Kutlichan.
Hashichan.
Always attached to the verb. K, the fourth person object pronoun. Okay. Coming back to the classifier, plus I if it is that way or if it did happen. Okay. All positive perfectives are plus I. Always. Imperfective states are also plus I. Those are the two main ones you think of when you say, well, why is it going the plus I? It is or it happened, right? Or it was, right? That's fine. Then you're going to have ya, si, shi, shi. There is the plus D, so sometimes something is naturally just plus D. Some verbs are. Otherwise, it's if someone does it to themselves, doing it to each other, or if you kick out the object. Those are the reasons, right? So you could say, chwasatin, I see it. Ichsatin, I see you. Yichsatin, I see you all. Chaschasatin, I see them all. Shchodzatin, I see myself. So that's why it goes plus D. Here's a bonus. For the subjects, if you go fourth person subject, what's the fourth person subject sound like? That's the object. You are correct for the object. The fourth person subject.
Do.
De. If you go de, here's the rule with de. Every zero classifier must be minus D. It has to be. Every non-zero must go plus D. Wududzatin. Wududlatin. Wududjagook. Okay. So now we're going to go, this one will be a perfective. Because there's a couple things that change here. One, there's an object. We're going to use these same things that we've been doing. Chat, zero. Ha, yi, hus, zero. Right? That's not going to change. It's a D plus zero. That means the classifier isn't going to be ya now. What's it going to be? Di. Right? Di, di, di. All the way down. This is going to be a perfective because it's not a state verb, it's an event verb. And an event verb has no perfective, or has no imperfective. So if it happens, it must be perfective. This is one of the verbs that would be the same for right now, the same for yesterday. Kate would de tuck. Tut gay Kate would de tuck. Ja, ye det Kate would de tuck. And because it's perfective, closed and zero, it will be short and high. So it's going to end with Uk. It's going to have w on front of it. There are times when things are going to cause some contraction with the w. And you'll be able to, I bet you know what things would cause that. But we'll see. This was, making the beginning Tlingit workbook, this was the hardest thing to find an image for. There's no safe searches for this.
Yeah.
I had to find like someone made a little art thing of a box walking in the rain. It was very cute. I bought it from them. I bought the rights.
Yeah.
I'm wet. Khat. But you gotta start with w. Khat, w, de, uk. Put it together.
What would clock me?
Ah.
You're tongue tied.
Khat would de uk. Khat would de uk.
Hut would it luck?
Khat would de uk.
What would it clock?
Khat would de uk.
What would it
Hut would it luck?
Here's another one that I know a lot of you know. If I say khat would de khut, what's the conjugation of that verb? What's the conjugation type?
Zero.
It's zero. And how do you know that? No, that's a different one than this one. It's not on the screen. Khat would de khut. Yes, if it was not zero, it would be would de khut.
That's crazy.
It's short and high and closed. It's a zero. Right? This is how you start to predict this stuff. And one, I think you start to recognize like, okay, that one must be zero. But then you move towards programming your brain to say it's zero, it's closed, it's got to be short and high in the perfective. Okay. What do you think this one's going to be though? You are wet. There must be some additional contraction here. I think I heard a little bit of an X sound in there. But the first part, the first two letters were right on. Ew-de-tuck. Ew-de-tuck. Ew-de-tuck.
Ew-de-tuck.
If you are from Tesson.
Ew-de-tuck.
Im-de-tuck.
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 This must contract. You cannot say it would-de-tuck. Cannot do it. What happens is that vowel pushes that contraction. This is where we start counting things. From the left of the root, we have di, w, I. Richard Dowenhauer called this the 3 strikes and you're out rule. If you got 3 things with a vowel, something's probably going to have to give. And the thing, you can't contract I, because what could it go to? You can't contract di, because you need that letter I. So the perfective, that's the thing. It goes from y to just a single W. This, if you want to know the cheat code on when you switch to an M, if it goes vowel W, classifier with a vowel, it'll go M.
Oh, that was my question.
Okay.
When did it?
Yes, you would not say chet muditak. Not say that. But you would say imditak. And the next one probably could be an M as well.
Could you repeat what the pattern is for changing to an M?
If it goes vowel, W, and a classifier with a vowel.
Oh.
Well, the classifier has to have a consonant and a vowel. And ya is not a consonant and a vowel combination. Tum Yeoa Adayu de Tun. Thought about it. Okay. Y'all are wet. Oh wait, no, we're doing the singular they is wet, sorry. For this one, you always look up to chet and you just take the chet off of there. Would it tuck? Would it tuck?
Would it luck?
Would it tuck? How would you say the dog is wet? Kate would it tuck. Right? That's all you need. Those two words. Now you've got the dog is wet. English needs 4 words. Get out of town. We'll do it in 2. Ask questions if you got them. We are wet. Ha ends with a vowel. Even though we write it separate, if that ends with a vowel, it will still trigger that contraction.
That sounds like it could have been attached.
Yes, but then you wouldn't go ha ushke. You still have a separation there. You can hear it, or else they go ha ushke. There would be something where it would run together there, that's the only reason why. That's the main reason why we write them separate. Yes, how did uck? How did uck? How did uck? Hum did uck? Hum did uck?
The luck.
So as you learn these, you also have to, like, that sounds like H-A-A-W, like one word. Sounds like one word. But this is where, like, you keep them separate, and when you're writing them, just so that you recognize what those different parts are. Just like Yanagut. If you look in some old things, sometimes it's Y-I-A-A-N space A-G-U-T. But that shouldn't be. It should be Y-A-A space N-A-G high tone U-T.
I remember
Yanagut.
I remember when they used to put it all together in one thing years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was really confusing when I came back and they had the new.
Yeah, and the reason is like so you can start changing those pronouns, right? Y'all are wet.
You did cluck.
Yeah, oh, you did tuck.
You did cluck.
You did tuck.
You did cluck.
Yim did tuck.
You did
You did luck.
Did tuck.
You did cluck.
They all are wet. That ends with a consonant. So we go back to would it tuck. Hus would it tuck. Hus would it tuck.
Us would it luck.
Hus would it tuck. How would you say those kittens are wet? Douche. Not yadi. I don't know, what's the plural for yet? Okay, so ach yadi, my one child. Ach yet.
Yetki.
The child is, I think, the only kinship term that is actually a noun. And the noun form is yet, like ash kush yet. Ach yedi, that's a plural that's a relational suffix. And I know it is because when you go, the suffix order goes plural relational. Ach yetki, douche yetki haswudet uk. People are what? We're going to use
Kudetlak.
Kudetlak. Kudetlak. Kumdetlak.
Who did luck?
Kumdetlak. So in this case, k and y gets you ku. Underline K-O-O-W. How? Putting the pieces together. So this last one, we got to change it a little bit more. Right? We're still going to go chat I 0, ha yi hus 0. There's no subject here. There is an object. There's a classifier. This is an event verb. And then there's something new. What's the new thing?
Pink.
Yes, the pink thing. And what is it? It's the thematic, yes. And what does this one refer to? Gusu iya.
Oh, face.
Vertical surface or the face. Ya, ka, ya, ka, ya, ka. The two most common thematic prefixes by far. Ka is the most common. And then ya is the second most common.
So I'm very curious to why this thematic would be in here when you're speaking about being weathered in.
That's a good question. Okay. So for some of these deeper questions, we're going to go into, okay, we probably won't get to putting this one together, but I'll show you how to learn how to, we're going to predict a couple of things in here. So we're going to go to Lear's verb notes, because maybe we want to see, well, what is this seek thing? So if we go to seek, and using this, this is a different resource than the verb dictionary. One of the big differences is all written in pencils, handwritten. Sometimes you got to really zoom in, and if you got tired eyes, your eyes might get a little bit more tired. The other thing is sometimes you're going to click somewhere and you got to scroll up a little bit to get to where you were trying to go, or down. And so we see yawasik and ayausisik. So again, very faded, but it means delayed by the weather, prevented from going. And there's an S classifier version to say to prevent someone from going or to hold them back. And then if we see on the left-hand side here, the definition of seek is to delay. So the verb root has meaning. So then you can get into philosophies about, well, why is the ya there? And you say, well, maybe like the weather is like this thing that's keeping you from going to your destination, perhaps. Like it's some sort of wall that you go up against.
Oh, okay. That's
I would
something.
think of it. Yeah.
That's something.
So then coming back to here, if we were going to predict it, now we're going to have ya, and this will be, what will this classifier be? It did happen. Must be almost time.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's plus I, right? So you're going to have ya, and then what's this? Okay, so this is an event verb. That means what? That means there's no imperfective. That means we're going to deal with the perfective version of it here. If it's perfective, this is plus I. What is the root? What's the stem going to be? Sick. Short and high, because zeros in perfective are short and high when they're closed. Every single time. And then the other thing is ya plus ya gets you yawa. Yawa. Okay. So the first one. If you could say it, we can go. If not, we'll be delayed. I'm weathered in. I'm delayed. Yawa sick. It's time to go home. Okay, we'll pick up here next week unless there's any last minute questions. Okay, we're chipping away. Okay.
Goodness, jeez.
Sheesh.
Nashish.
For tomorrow, Wachine is hosting a Slinket coffee outing at Heritage, the one by Asiana and Nugget. Is it Nugget Mom with the super bear? Or is
It's
that
the Mendenhall.
Mendenhall Mom. Mendenhall, thank you. At the Heritage right there. So 10:30 to 11:30, we're having Slinket language coffee time.
Hey, goodness, cheese.
And if you have any coffee phrases that you think we should know and use, please let me know, because I've got a list, but I'm sure it can be much, much, much better. But yeah, everyone's invited. So, and for students, there's a